Age markings once dismissed as meaningless are being reinterpreted as the earliest evidence of religious symbolism. A number of scholars, many of them women, have turned their minds and intuition toward piecing together the bones of the goddess's existence and the extensive religions centered around her. Groundbreaking work by scholars such as Maria Gimbutas, James Mellart, Alexander Marshak, Jane Ellen Harrison, and William Irwin Thompson have made it clear that man's famous inhumanity to man is not our only heritage. From the Neolithic city of Çatalhöyük in present-day Turkey to the palaces of Minoan Crete, scholars found traces of societies that based their religious structures around a goddess who lived in peace for thousands of years, with role models very different from those now the norm. The eternal female. In Egypt, the goddess was known as Hathor Isis, Sekhmet. In Sumerian, Syro-Palestinian, and Cypriot cultures, she was called Inanna, Ishtar, Astarte, Astoreth, Anat, Aphrodite. In Anatolia, Asia Minor, Crete, Greece, and Rome, she was Cybele, Rhea, Demeter, Artemis, Ariadne, Persephone. All these historical goddesses sprang from an archetypal great goddess of the Paleolithic age, when cultures throughout the European and Western Asian world worshipped forms of a divine mother. This divine mother should not be imagined as the female equivalent of the Judeo-Christian God the Father. She is more fluid, capable of assuming many forms. She is a powerful mythological symbol who speaks to something basic in human consciousness. As an archetype of the eternal female, she transmits simultaneously layer upon layer of meaning, some of it seemingly contradictory or disparate. Bypassing the intellect, often inaccessible to conscious thought, these multidimensional images strike to the heart of awareness. They vibrate within our psyches, oscillating between various levels of meaning. They are the unconscious source of our thoughts and emotions. Think of this great fount of archetypes as a stream of energy that assumes whatever form our consciousness can understand. Because there are so many different levels of comprehension, the goddess appears in myriad forms. The archetype of compassion, for example, is reflected in our own mothers, regardless of the nature of each particular mother-child relationship. In its most ancient form, it is embodied in the archetype of the Great Mother, who created her children and nourished them on the fluids of her body, devoting herself to maintaining and guiding their existence. As we are drawn deeper into each form and expression of the archetype, we begin to assimilate the primordial energy that creates it. Consciousness-transforming practices such as rhythmic drumming or meditation can put us in touch with the archetypal patterns of consciousness inherent in human beings, archetypes once represented by the various forms of the goddess. As patterns of behavior are brought up from unconsciousness into the light of conscious awareness, we can begin to change distorted or unhealthy behavior. For thousands of years, this nurturing, divine feminine represented the ultimate spiritual example. Her mythology was a storehouse of human experience and recollection, conveying an archaic technology of psychological and spiritual wisdom. This archetypal knowledge enabled women and men to understand who they were within themselves and in relation to their families, communities, and environment. Priestesses of the sacred sound. The goddess and those who performed her sacred rituals were female. These oldest of rituals were earth-based. The earth itself was revered as the great mother of all that is. Because new life came from women's bodies as it did from the earth, women were celebrated as the embodiment of the divine. Human beings were not separate from their environment. They saw themselves as the earth in human form. In caring for the earth, people cared for themselves. Women's rights preserved the sanctity of this nourishing bond. Rhythmic music seems to have been particularly important in the rites associated with the ancient goddesses. In the oldest cultures, rhythm was revered as the structuring force of life, so much so that historian William H. McNeill argues that learning to move and give voice rhythmically and the strengthened emotional bonds associated with this sort of behavior